At 4:29 a.m. on a quiet Michigan street, a passerby made a discovery that would haunt them forever. Someone was lying in the middle of Providence Drive, motionless, suffering from severe head trauma that painted a disturbing scene in the early morning darkness. The frantic 911 call brought paramedics racing to save a life that was slipping away. But as they worked desperately to stabilize the victim, they had no idea they were looking at the aftermath of an unthinkable betrayal. This wasn't a random accident. This wasn't a hit and run by a stranger. This was something far more devastating. A 23-year-old college student abandoned in her moment of greatest need by someone she trusted completely. Someone who should have been her protector had instead become the architect of her doom. What happened on that June night in 2023 will challenge everything you believe about friendship, loyalty, and the choices we make when no one is watching. If this case already has you asking questions, make sure to subscribe, because what comes next will leave you questioning who you can truly trust. The young woman found broken on Providence Drive was Mia Kanu, just 23 years old, with a future that seemed limitless and a heart that touched everyone around her. Born on January 25, 2000, in Lansing, Michigan, Mia was the daughter of Bianca Van Meter and Kanu. At Tennessee State University, she was pursuing her dream with unwavering determination, becoming a veterinarian. This wasn't just a career choice for Mia, it was her calling. She worked as a veterinary assistant at Richland Animal Clinic in Tennessee, gaining hands-on experience while building toward the life she envisioned, caring for animals who couldn't speak for themselves. To her extensive and loving family, including her parents, stepmother, 4 sisters, a brother, and a wide network of grandparents, aunts, and uncles, Mia was described as a treasure. Those who knew her used words like God-fearing, kind, and bright soul to capture her essence. Friends consistently remembered her as loving, sweet, and funny, while teachers and coaches recognized her natural leadership abilities. Mia wasn't just academically focused. She was actively engaged in volleyball and various school activities, serving as a team leader who brought out the best in others. Her presence radiated positivity and warmth, creating connections that enriched the lives of everyone in her orbit. She had that rare quality of making people feel valued and heard. Her compassionate nature extended beyond her chosen profession. Mia genuinely cared about others, their struggles, their dreams, their well-being. This wasn't superficial kindness. It was the core of who she was. Her family saw it in how she treated her siblings, her friends witnessed it in her everyday interactions, and her colleagues at the animal clinic observed it in her gentle approach with both pets and their worried owners. Summer 2023 brought Mia home from Tennessee State University, back to Michigan to spend precious time with family and friends. She had successfully completed another year toward her veterinary degree, moving steadily closer to the future she had mapped out so carefully. Her parents were proud of her dedication, her siblings looked up to her example, and her extended family celebrated her achievements. On the night of June 3, 2023, Mia was doing what countless college students do during summer break, spending time with friends, enjoying a party in Southfield, Michigan. It was supposed to be a normal evening, the kind of carefree night that creates lasting memories. She had every reason to feel safe, surrounded by people she knew, including someone she considered a trusted friend. None of them could have imagined that this ordinary night would become the beginning of an extraordinary tragedy, one that would expose the darkest possible betrayal of trust and friendship. The evening of June 3, 2023, started like countless other summer nights for college students home on break. Mia had plans to attend a party with friends in Southfield, Michigan, a chance to reconnect, unwind, and enjoy the freedom that comes with being young and having the whole summer ahead of you. At the gathering, Mia was her usual self, engaging, laughing, building connections with the people around her. She wasn't a heavy drinker, but like many 23-year-olds at a party, she had been consuming alcohol throughout the evening. What should have been a night of innocent fun was about to take a turn that no one could have predicted. As the party wound down in the early morning hours, Mia needed a ride. She turned to someone she trusted completely, a friend who had also been at the gathering, someone who had offered to drive her home safely. This friend owned a 2022 silver Jeep Compass, and Mia climbed into the back seat, settling in for what should have been a routine trip home. The driver was someone Mia genuinely cared about. Later, her family would reveal the depth of this relationship, with Mia's grandmother stating, "We wanted everyone to know that Mia loved Kentia." This wasn't just any acquaintance offering a ride. This was someone Mia considered family, someone she trusted with her life. But something went terribly wrong on Providence Drive. At approximately 4:29 a.m., surveillance cameras captured a horrifying scene, a figure falling from a speeding SUV. The vehicle didn't slow down. It didn't stop. It simply continued driving, leaving whoever had fallen lying motionless in the middle of the road. What the cameras captured would later become crucial evidence, but in that moment, it simply recorded an unthinkable act of abandonment. Someone had just fallen from a moving vehicle, and the driver, the person responsible for their safety, had chosen to keep driving. The person who discovered Mia will likely never forget what they saw. A young woman alone, severely injured, lying in the middle of Providence Drive near the Coach Apartments. The head trauma was immediately apparent and devastating. This wasn't someone who had been walking and accidentally struck. This was someone who had fallen from a significant height at considerable speed. The 911 call brought emergency responders racing to the scene. Paramedics found Mia clinging to life, her injuries so severe that it was immediately clear this was a life-threatening situation. As they worked to stabilize her for transport, they began gathering the evidence that would later tell the story of what happened. A key fob was found at the scene, not Mia's, but belonging to the vehicle she had fallen from. Her phone was also recovered, providing immediate leads for investigators who were already beginning to piece together this puzzle. The forensic team would later determine that Mia's fingerprints were found only in the backseat of the vehicle, confirming her position as a passenger. Mia was rushed to the hospital, where her family received the call that every parent dreads. Their daughter, their treasure, was fighting for her life with traumatic brain injuries that threatened to take her away from them forever. For days, Mia's extensive family maintained a vigil at her bedside. Her parents, Bianca Van Meter and Mia Kanu, along with her stepmother, siblings, and extended family, held on to hope, while watching medical professionals fight to save the young woman who meant everything to them. The autopsy would later reveal that Mia had a blood alcohol content of 0.21%, nearly 3 times the legal limit. There was also evidence that she had been vomiting, with traces found both in the car door seal and on the roadway. This detail would become significant in understanding why she might have suddenly exited the moving vehicle. But even with these medical facts, one question haunted everyone. Why didn't the driver stop? On June 5, 2023, after days of no brain activity, Mia's family faced the most agonizing decision any family can make. The machines keeping their beloved daughter alive were turned off, but even in death, Mia's compassionate spirit shone through. The hospital staff organized what they called a walk of life ceremony. Doctors, nurses, and Mia's loved ones lined the hallway in silent tribute as she was wheeled to the operating room for organ donation. This final act of generosity would save multiple lives, including that of an infant, a testament to the giving nature that had defined Mia throughout her 23 years. As her family said their final goodbyes, they were left with not only the unbearable grief of losing someone so young and full of promise, but also with haunting questions about that night. Questions about trust, about friendship, and about the person who had driven away when Mia needed help the most. The investigation was just beginning, but one fact was already becoming clear. This wasn't just a tragic accident. This was a betrayal of the most fundamental kind, the abandonment of someone who had placed their complete trust in the wrong person. Southfield police arrived at the scene on Providence Drive, knowing they were dealing with something far more complex than a simple pedestrian accident. The evidence scattered across the roadway told a story that would shock even experienced investigators. The key fob found near Mia's body became the first crucial piece of the puzzle. It didn't belong to Mia. It belonged to a 2022 silver Jeep Compass. This single piece of evidence would prove instrumental in tracing the vehicle back to its owner and unraveling the events of that fatal night. Detective work moved swiftly as investigators obtained search warrants for the vehicle and its Uconnect system. Modern cars are essentially computers on wheels, storing data about speed, location, and driver behavior. The forensic examination of the Jeep would reveal critical details about what happened in those final moments before Mia fell. Inside the vehicle, investigators made a discovery that painted a disturbing picture. Vomit was found in the seal of the car door, evidence that Mia had been sick while inside the moving vehicle. This physical evidence, combined with the vomit found on the roadway where she was discovered, suggested she may have been in the process of being sick when she exited the vehicle. The toxicology report provided additional context. Mia's blood alcohol content of 0.21% was significantly above the legal limit, explaining why she might have become ill during the car ride. But this medical evidence only made the driver's actions more inexcusable. Mia was clearly in a vulnerable state and needed assistance, not abandonment. Fingerprint analysis of the vehicle's interior confirmed what investigators suspected. Only Mia's prints were found in the back seat, consistent with her being a passenger. She hadn't been driving, hadn't been in control of the situation. She had been entirely dependent on someone else for her safety. The surveillance footage became the most damning evidence of all. Multiple cameras in the area had captured the moment when a figure fell from the speeding SUV. The footage was clear. This was not a vehicle that slowed down or stopped after someone fell out. This was a vehicle that continued driving as if nothing had happened. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came from what the investigation didn't find: any evidence that the driver had attempted to help Mia after she fell. Southfield Police Chief Elvin Barron would later make a statement that cut to the heart of the matter. When the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office suggested that Mia had jumped from the vehicle, Chief Barron was explicit in his contradiction. There was no evidence to suggest that Kanu jumped from the vehicle. This factual dispute would become a source of additional pain for Mia's family, but it highlighted something even more disturbing. Regardless of how Mia had exited the vehicle, whether she fell due to illness, was pushed, or had some other reason for leaving the car, the driver's response was the same: complete abandonment. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a timeline that revealed the true extent of the driver's callousness. Rather than stopping to render aid or immediately calling 911, the driver had continued driving. The investigation revealed that the driver had picked up another friend from a nearby apartment complex and had actually returned to search for Mia. Even more disturbing was the discovery that the driver admitted to seeing ambulance and police lights in the area where Mia was found, but had deliberately chosen not to approach them. Think about that for a moment. Seeing emergency responders exactly where your friend had fallen from your car, and choosing to drive away rather than provide information that could save her life. If you're watching this and wondering how someone could make such choices, you're not alone. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the full story of who was behind the wheel that night will challenge everything you think you know about human nature. Hours after leaving Mia dying in the road, the driver made a decision that would reveal even more about their character. At 12:25 p.m. on June 3, more than 8 hours after Mia's fall, the driver went to the Detroit Police 5th Precinct to report a phone stolen, claiming there had been a physical altercation with a boyfriend while Mia was supposedly asleep in the back seat. Detroit police noted that the person making this report was intoxicated, still intoxicated, hours after the incident that had left Mia fighting for her life. The investigation was revealing a pattern of behavior that went far beyond a momentary lapse in judgment. This was calculated self-preservation at the expense of a friend's life, and investigators were building a case that would expose the full extent of this betrayal. The person behind the wheel of that 2022 silver Jeep Compass was 24-year-old Kentia Fearn from Wayne, Michigan. This wasn't a stranger who had offered Mia a ride. This was someone Mia considered family, someone she loved and trusted completely. The depth of this betrayal would become clear through Mia's grandmother's heartbreaking words. "We wanted everyone to know that Mia loved Kentia. So that's what hurt, for her to just leave her there." This statement encapsulates the devastating core of this case, not just the loss of a young life, but the destruction of trust by someone who should have been Mia's protector. Kentia Fearn had been at the same party as Mia that night, socializing, drinking, and seemingly enjoying herself like any other 24-year-old. But when the evening ended and Mia needed a safe ride home, Fearn's true character would be revealed through her actions in the hours that followed. After Mia fell from the moving vehicle, Fearn's response was not panic, not immediate calls for help, not rushing back to aid her friend. Instead, Fearn drove away from the scene and began a series of actions that would demonstrate a stunning prioritization of self-interest over human life. Court proceedings later revealed that Fearn wasn't just an impaired driver that night, she had a history. There was already a bench warrant out of Detroit for an open intoxicant charge, indicating a pattern of driving under the influence. This wasn't someone who made a single mistake. This was someone with a documented history of putting others at risk. But Fearn's behavior after Mia's fall revealed something even more disturbing than impaired driving. Police reports documented that after leaving the scene, Fearn picked up another friend from a nearby apartment complex. Together, they actually returned to search for Mia. But when Fearn saw ambulance and police lights in the exact area where her friend had fallen, she made a conscious choice not to approach them. Think about that decision. Your friend has fallen from your car. You return to look for her. You see emergency responders exactly where she fell, and you choose to drive away rather than provide information that could save her life. Hours later, at 12:25 p.m. on June 3, more than 8 hours after leaving Mia dying in the road, Fearn went to the Detroit Police 5th Precinct with a story that would reveal even more about her character. She reported her phone stolen, claiming there had been a physical altercation with her boyfriend while Mia was supposedly asleep in the back seat. Detroit police noted that Fearn was still intoxicated when she made this report, hours after the incident. Her story kept changing. She claimed Mia woke up, grabbed her phone back, and subsequently fell from the vehicle. But these shifting narratives couldn't hide the central fact. Fearn had driven away when Mia needed help most. Southfield Police Chief Elvin Barron didn't mince words when he publicly condemned Fearn's actions. "What kind of friend is that?" he questioned, expressing the outrage that many felt about Fearn's failure to render aid. Chief Barron further highlighted that evidence suggested Fearn was more concerned about getting her phone back from her boyfriend than calling 911 and tending to Kanu. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald reinforced the legal reality. The law requires anyone involved in an accident to stop and immediately report the accident to authorities. Leaving the scene when someone is seriously injured or dies is a felony. It took months, but justice finally began to move. On September 19, 2023, Kentia Fearn was arrested. The key fob found at the scene, belonging to her Jeep, had provided the trail that led investigators directly to her door. The next day, September 20, 2023, the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office formally announced charges against Fearn. She faced leaving the scene of an accident resulting in death, a felony punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment and/or a $5,000 fine, plus operating while intoxicated, a misdemeanor punishable by up to 93 days imprisonment and/or a $500 fine. Fearn was arraigned the same day with bonds set at $3,000 personal, under conditions that included no contact with Mia's family, a protection that seemed almost insulting given what she had already put them through. Following her arrest, Fearn entered a plea of no contest to both charges. A no contest plea allows a defendant to accept conviction without admitting guilt, often as part of a plea agreement. For Mia's family, this legal maneuvering represented another layer of frustration. Even in court, Fearn wouldn't acknowledge responsibility for her actions. On December 13, 2023, Kentia Fearn was sentenced for her role in Mia Kanu's death. The sentence would shock the family and community. 3 months in Oakland County Jail and 3 years of probation. 3 months. For leaving someone to die in the road, for choosing self-preservation over saving a life, for betraying the trust of someone who loved her. The family's reaction to this sentence revealed the profound gap between legal consequences and emotional justice. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about acknowledgement of Mia's worth, about the value placed on her life, about accountability for the ultimate betrayal of friendship. The 3-month sentence handed down to Kentia Fearn sent shockwaves through Mia's family and the broader community. For a felony charge that carried a potential maximum of 5 years imprisonment, 3 months felt like a devastating failure of the justice system to recognize the gravity of what had been lost. Mia's grandmother, Lucina Reyes, captured the family's anguish in words that revealed the depth of their betrayal. "We wanted everyone to know that Mia loved Kentia, so that's what hurt, for her to just leave her there." The pain in this statement goes beyond grief. It speaks to the shattering of trust, the violation of love, and the incomprehensible nature of abandoning someone who cared for you. Mia's mother, Bianca Van Meter, channeled her grief into a desperate plea for truth and understanding. "Something happened, and somebody knows something, and we just want those answers," she stated. If they could just tell the true story of what happened and why they didn't go back for her, why they didn't help her more, I would really want to know that. Her words reflect a mother's need not just for justice, but for comprehension. How could someone her daughter loved act with such callousness? "We really just want justice for Mia," Van Meter continued, expressing what had become the family's driving force in the wake of an unsatisfying legal outcome. Mia's father, Mia Kanu, articulated perhaps the most painful aspect of their loss. "The thing that tears us apart on top of the loss, obviously, is the impact that could have been had from this child based on influence and the direction she had." His words speak to the future that died with Mia, not just her personal dreams, but all the lives she would have touched, all the animals she would have healed, all the positive influence she would have had on the world. As media attention initially focused on the case but then began to fade, celebrity publicist Andrew Wyatt stepped forward as an unexpected advocate for Mia and her family. Wyatt became vocal about the case, expressing his profound disgust that Mia, someone with a promising future, was left in the street like an animal. His involvement brought renewed national attention to the case and provided comfort to Bianca Van Meter by being her voice when the story threatened to disappear from public consciousness. Wyatt's advocacy highlighted broader concerns about cases involving young Black women and the need for sustained attention to ensure justice is served. His efforts helped ensure that Mia's story didn't become just another statistic lost in the criminal justice system. On Providence Drive in Southfield, a beautiful memorial was established at the site where Mia was found. This visible reminder of her life and the tragic circumstances of her death became a gathering place for friends, classmates, and community members who left flowers and messages of love. The memorial served as both a tribute to Mia's memory and a constant reminder of the questions her case raised about accountability and justice. Perhaps the most powerful testament to Mia's character came through her final act of generosity. The organ donation that followed her death saved multiple lives, including that of an infant. Even in death, Mia's compassionate spirit continued to heal and help others, a legacy that embodies everything she had hoped to accomplish as a veterinarian. Her university and the local veterinary community held moments of silence and shared tributes, remembering her as a rising star whose kindness had touched both animals and people. These remembrances painted a picture of potential that would never be realized, dreams that died on Providence Drive. Mia Kanu's story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the people we trust and the choices we make in moments of crisis. Her case reveals that sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from strangers, it comes from those closest to us, those who hold our safety in their hands. The 3-month sentence may have closed the legal chapter of this case, but the questions it raises remain wide open. What transforms someone from a trusted friend into someone capable of such abandonment? How do we measure justice when a life full of promise is cut short by betrayal? Mia's legacy lives on in the most profound way possible, through the lives she saved via organ donation, including that infant whose future was secured by her final act of generosity. Her compassionate spirit, which drew her toward veterinary medicine and touched everyone around her, continued to heal even after her death. At Truly Criminal Network, our team believes that these stories matter not just for their shock value, but for what they teach us about human nature, accountability, and the precious fragility of trust. Mia's story is a reminder that we must choose our inner circles carefully, and that true friendship means staying when someone needs us most. If this case has moved you, please subscribe and share Mia's story. Her family's quest for answers and justice deserves to be heard, and her memory deserves to be honored. Some questions don't have easy answers, but they demand to be asked.